Going into Game 6 of the final of the Women's World Chess Championship, the challenger, Lei Tingjie, led by a point. She won in Game 5. Beautiful strategic performance. So, how would the champion, Wenjun, react? She had white in Game 6. Let's take a look. So, she went with d4 and d5 and c4. And after e6, well, we didn't have knight f3. Instead, Wenjun exchanged on d5. If you're going to play the exchange variation, I would say this is slightly inaccurate. Normally, the Queen's Gambit exchange variation takes place here. And then bishop g5 and so on. The difference is this, that after pawn takes pawn, after knight c3, black is not obliged to play knight f6. I think an accurate move here is c6, a waiting move. You wait to see how this bishop commits. If bishop f4, then you can play your bishop to d6 in one move. And black has gained half a move on some other variations. So why did Zhu take here? I think it's because after knight c3, she might have had an inkling that Lei would play c5 here, and I suspect she wanted to avoid some tricky preparation in this gambit line. This is very, very interesting. There have been a lot of developments for black in this line. So I think that's why Zhu exchanged on d5. Now, the funny thing is, Lei didn't play c6 here, which I think is an accurate move. Instead, she just went for c5 anyway. So she's determined to play a Tarrasch. So knight f3, knight c6, and now you could say the old main line of Tarrasch is g3. You might recall some Karpov-Kasparov World Championship games way back in 1984 with this variation. But things have developed. This didn't happen, but I suspect the reason that Zhu didn't play this is because she might be concerned about some heavy preparation in this line. This is the so-called Dubov variation. Daniel Dubov, a Russian player, developed this system into quite a dangerous weapon, actually. So here's the game. g3 didn't happen. Instead, Zhu took on c5. She played that fairly quickly. So obviously preparation, and Lei was in her preparation as well. So you can see that after this pawn capture on c5, d5 pawn is attacked. So that's why d4 comes, attacking the knight. And the knight comes to a4 to protect this one. But in fact, black can take this anyway. So this is a well-known position. Knight takes, queen a5 check, recovers the knight with this double attack. Bishop d2, and queen takes c5. I mean, this has a reasonable reputation for black. It's not meant to be too testing. Various moves have been played here, but e3 looks very sensible. You know, if black is allowed to develop with knight f6 castles, get a rook to the e-file, then this pawn on d4 actually performs quite a nice role in the game, pressurizing white in the center. So I think it's best to try and exchange this off. But then again, after this exchange, you can see that the pawn structure is symmetrical. The only real difference in the two positions is that white has the two bishops, black playing against that, a bishop and a knight. If bishop d2, then it is possible to swipe that pawn actually. So queen d2, an exchange of queens. So I would say that white has a symbolic advantage here of the two bishops. Whether you can make anything of that is another matter. And in fact, black's position is very solid here. 97 played. You can also go knight f6, but I think there's a nice reason why 97 is played actually. Bishop c4, okay, sound development, and castles for black. And Zhu and Wenjun playing pretty quickly, castled queenside. Well, considering that the c-file is open, then it's perhaps not the safest way to play, or at least if white is switched on, it's also not dangerous. But it does take time to bring the king to a safer position. One could castle kingside here. I mean, that has been played before, but you know, after this move, well, it's hard to see how white is really gaining an advantage here. You know, these bishops can be a little bit vulnerable once the rooks come into the middle, and there's potential to exchange here and, you know, plonk a knight in the middle or to e5. It's hard to make anything of this position with white. In any case, castles queenside played. a6. So with the idea of pushing this one, b3, bishop f5, yeah, watch out, the king, so the king steps to b2, b5 pushes that bishop back off a nice diagonal, and Lei plonked a rook in the middle. So up until this moment, neither player had spent too much time. We were on move 18 already. So both in some kind of preparation. Yeah, as I said, the bishops give white some kind of nominal advantage. However, black is so well coordinated here that it is very hard to make anything of them. Zhu played rook e1 after over 27 minutes, almost 28 minutes thought. A long time. She obviously was struggling to make anything of this position. I might come back to this position later. I don't think the rook actually achieves too much on the e-file, as we're going to see. Rook c8. And now, yeah, what do you do with these bishops? It's not easy. You know, and there's, well, black already has potential to try and land here. Bishop g5 after 17.5 minutes thought. So maybe a sign that Zhu wasn't too satisfied with the position, and I can understand why. f6, good move. Actually, it's a move that black wants to play anyway, to give the king a little safe square on f7, stop any back rank ideas. So Zhu exchanged rooks. She obviously was feeling that, you know, black's pieces could generate some activity, so she wanted to exchange. Bishop d2, the bishop came all the way back. And bishop d3. Strategically, black wants to exchange a pair of bishops, because when there's just one bishop on its own, it can't really achieve that much, and black can operate on these light squares without any difficulty. And that's why Zhu, in this position, instead of exchanging, just dropped the bishop back to d1. Well, I understand the motivation. Of course, you want to keep those two bishops, you know, in the hope that one day they're going to emerge and play some significant role. But leaving the bishop on d3, of course, it's a tough one, because that bishop controls some beautiful squares. Dare I say it, we've got another starfish bish on the board. It's a wonderful piece. King f7. Yep, the king can safely step forward. These squares are covered. And it's actually safe on a light square because this bishop just can't get into the game. h4. Yeah, I think that's directed against black possibly gaining space with g5. And h5. Yeah, why not? You can stop the pawn advancing. a3. Well, who knows? Later on it might be important to push with b4, and it also potentially stops black from advancing with b4. But it's not really a plan as such. g6, okay, that just guards this. And yeah, if b4, the problem is that that bishop will sink itself on c4 before white has a chance to play this bishop out here. Bishop e3 played. Yeah, nice to get this bishop off the d file. But bishop e4, good square. Although it might seem like this is a little bit vulnerable, actually it's no problem at all, because after bishop b6, attacking this one, the rook just steps forward, and you can see that the rook is keeping an eye on that bishop there. And well, here Zhu decided to exchange bishops, and after that black really has no difficulties whatsoever. What happens if white tries to keep a bit of tension? What about bishop c5, for example? I mean, it looks like a reasonable square. Well, just knight f5, and there could even potentially be a little bit of trouble with that h-pawn, because g3 allows a tactic down here. Watch out for that one. I mean, actually, you know, after rook takes, white is still just about okay. But you can see, yeah, that knight is certainly a bit annoying for white. So Zhu Wenjun obviously thought, look, you know, there's no point in playing this one on, playing for a win. And she decided just to simplify. So rook takes bishop, rook takes bishop. Really, black doesn't have any problems now. Rook d5. You can see there are no entry points for the rook. Black's king is very nicely placed, very secure, covers some important squares as well. And yeah, if b4, then again this move knight f5. Don't think black has any difficulties at all. White even has to be a little bit careful with potentially that knight swinging around here. Basically, it makes sense to get rid of that knight. There's also this idea, bouncing around to g4. Potentially an idea. So after rook d5, instead of maintaining the bishop on c5, bishop takes knight was played, just simplifying. And I think that's very prudent, actually. White could be worse. But of course, after these exchanges, well, I think a draw is inevitable. Neither side has any real weaknesses, and now, well, more exchanges taking place. And the queenside pawns were liquidated shortly, like this. And then the kingside pawns were liquidated. A knight each, no pawns on the board, and a draw was agreed. So, a game which didn't quite catch fire. So what did we learn from that? Well, I think we learned that Lei is very well prepared in these games. I think we've seen that throughout the 6 games we've had so far. And Zhu Wenjun is struggling to find a position that she's comfortable with, where she can somehow, you know, get some attacking chances. Certainly didn't happen in this game. I would say, coming back to this position, just very quickly, so rook e1 was played. As I said, I don't think the rook achieves too much. Maybe the only chance for white to get something here is just to try to exchange the rooks straight away. So after this, just go for a rook exchange and perhaps try to make something of that position with the 2 bishops. But frankly, I don't think it's too testing for black. But yeah, this whole line, I think, very comfortable for black. Excellent preparation again from Lei Tingjie. Half the match is over, at least if it's decided in the classical section. Yeah, so Lei Tingjie leads by a point at the halfway stage. The match now moves from Shanghai to Chongqing, which I believe is Lei Tingjie's Heimat. So there's going to be a break of a few days. I think the next game is Saturday. I'm not around. I can't cover that game. However, Robert Rees will be giving you reports on the game on Saturday and Sunday. So thank you to him for stepping in so that you don't miss a game and continue the coverage of the match continues on the PowerPlayChess channel. Thanks for watching. Do hit that subscribe button. I'm almost at 100k. Let's try and get there. Thanks for watching.